Hey guys, it's Zoe with Zoe's Rescue Zoo, and today I'm going to be doing a video on Easter rabbits and why not to buy them. So I want to start off this video with two facts or statistics that are commonly released by the local humane societies in the United States. The first one is that rabbits are the third most surrendered animals, right up there with dogs and cats. Most local shelters and humane societies hardly have the space for dogs and cats, nonetheless, to be able to provide a room for the small animals and properly care for them the way they need to be cared for. The second fact that I would like to point out is that according to most studies, 80% of rabbits or chicks bought for Easter are not with the family even a year after. So that means only 20% of people keep these animals 1 year. It drops even lower to year 2. That's a really sad statistic, and it implies the fact that animals are okay to throw away. So after hearing that, if you're still interested in rabbits, then let me give you a couple basic facts about them so you can really get an idea of what it would be like to own rabbits. So rabbits belong in bonded pairs or groups, 2 or more basically. You can have 4, 5, or 6 if you want them. As long as they're spayed and neutered, they'll get along really great after a proper bonding. They're very social creatures, they're very intelligent creatures, and they will essentially bond for life. They become very stressed without their mate, especially if one passes on or they're separated for whatever reason. It's like they're losing their best friend. They need someone that speaks their language, that can sleep with them, cuddle with them, be beside them at all points in times. Something you can't do when you're at work or school, and you also can't speak rabbit language. You can't talk to them and communicate with them the way they can with each other. So with that being said, them living together brings up another issue. Rabbits need to be spayed and neutered. 1, for health reasons, and 2, for the fact that it's not really a great idea to breed rabbits, nonetheless rabbits that you haven't genetically tested and done research on before breeding. So you're still interested in rabbits, and now you know that you need 2 or more and that they need to be spayed or neutered. On top of this, rabbits have a little bit of a intermediate level diet. They need constant hay at all points in times, whether they're a baby or they're an adult. The hay type may change based upon their age, but they need it all the time, 24/7. You can never run out of hay. It causes severe digestive issues in rabbits. So on top of hay, they need a specific amount of a high quality pellet like Oxbow or Small Pet Select, measured out by their weight and age. These charts that would measure out how much pellets they need a day would be found on the House Rabbit Society information page or in any of your Facebook groups. So you've got your 2 rabbits, you've got them spayed and neutered, you've got a great diet. Space is something that a lot of people don't realize. Rabbits ideally should live indoors unless you live in a foreign country where you're prepared to actually custom build a shed that has heating and cooling for them. That's very common in the United Kingdom. In the United States, it's very frowned upon to keep rabbits outdoors, especially when people don't keep them in any type of an enclosure that's climate controlled. So now that you know your rabbit will be living indoors, do you have the space for it? They generally suggest a couple hops wide and a couple hops long. You could find the exact recommended measurements on the House Rabbit Society page, but in all honesty, for owning rabbits for several years and owning a large group of rabbits, I found that the minimum requirements for most animals are truly that, the very bare minimum. You really want to provide the largest space possible, and don't count on the fact that you're going to be home all the time. Your life is going to change, your schedule is going to change. You need an actual area that they can remain free in while you're not home, that is safe for them, where they can't get hurt. So I have a bonded trio currently turning into a bonded quad. It's 3 females and 1 male, all spayed and neutered, all different ages. The bonding of the trio to the last girl is just starting to begin because she's finally recovering from her spay. It's been about 8 weeks, so we're gonna start the process slowly. She got the checkup from the vet that said we can go ahead. Bonding can be a difficult process, but if done properly, it generally works out well. So I'm going to insert a picture of my rabbit's room somewhere up in this top corner so you guys can see and get an idea of how much space rabbits need. Now I have larger rabbits than the average person, and I also have more rabbits than the average person, so they actually have their own bedroom. It's about 14 by 16 foot, and the only thing that is sectioned off is a little tiny section where our 100-gallon fish tank is. That way they can't get near any of the cords. So the 4 bunnies will live there, the 3 currently until they're bonded. And they have tons of room to hop around at all points in times. We have custom little castles that we've built for them, all sorts of tunnels and tubes, a giant hay rack, and different little bath mats and rugs. So rabbits can live for a very long time. You may only be able to enjoy their life for around 6 to 8 years, or you could have them for well over 12 years. It really depends upon the genetics of the rabbit, the previous care, all that kind of stuff. But you are definitely going to have them for several years. So another thing to think about, especially if you're getting this rabbit for a child, is that not all rabbits like to be held. Miss Checkers here kind of enjoys being held, and she doesn't really get upset with me. Now on the other hand, Duchess and Willow don't like to be touched. They don't like to be touched at all, and they will let you know. Children generally want to hold their animals a lot and carry them around. Rabbits aren't great for that because they are extremely skittish animals, being that they are prey animals. And they definitely can get very scared and hurt very easily. They're delicate little creatures, so that's something to think about. Another thing to think about is the fact that if you're getting these animals for children, children don't have cars, they don't make money, they don't have a job. These animals are going to need veterinary care, they're going to need food, bedding, cages, all that kind of stuff for many years to come. Now that you've heard all about rabbits and you're still interested in them, I have a fabulous suggestion for you. Wait till after Easter is over and check your local humane societies. Get your name put on a list in case they get any rabbits after Easter, which I'm sure they will, and you can go adopt yourself a beautiful little house rabbit. Elijah here is my oldest rabbit. I've had him the longest. Him and Duchess are about the same age, and they're my first 2 original rabbits. And this is Duchess. She is one of my other females, one of my original rabbits. She came from a shelter in Louisiana that's 501c. Checkers came from a 501c in Fort Worth, Texas. Elijah came from here in my hometown, and Willow came from here in my hometown from a 501c as well. After Elijah and Duchess, several years, I think 2 honestly, I came across Checkers when I drove about 7 hours to adopt just under 8 animals from the animal shelter. We occasionally go on long trips and plan ahead and adopt many animals, taking them into the sanctuary. Checkers was one of these bunnies. She had already been spayed, so we just quarantined her and waited for all of her sutures to heal. Then we eventually bonded her, and they became a bonded trio. So Willow is my largest rabbit and my newest rabbit. We've only had her about 3 months, so she's still currently in the bonding process because the original 6 to 8 weeks was time for her to heal from her spay and also to be in quarantine to make sure she didn't have any parasites or diseases that could be transmitted to my other rabbits. She's not the friendliest and doesn't like to be held, so I'm actually going to go ahead and put her up because I don't want her to be stressed. So we're about to start part 2 of why not to buy live animals for Easter, and I'm going to go grab one of my 5 special guests. I'm only going to bring 1 in just because they're a little bit harder to handle when they're indoors, and we're going to go on to the chick section. Another thing to think about if your children are wanting chicks for Easter is that you're going to have to be very careful when they're messing with the chickens, just like when they mess with any other animals, that they're not putting their hands in their mouth, they're not getting feces on their clothes, they're not touching things they don't need to be, then that they're being very sanitary and clean. Because all animals carry germs, all humans carry germs, and children tend not to wash their hands, they tend to put things in their mouth, they tend to pick things up off the ground. They're just being kids. Chickens are definitely not as difficult as rabbits in my personal opinion, but they can be just as costly given that chickens generally live outdoors. For them to thrive and be healthy, they need to eat bugs, they need to live on the grass, roam about, breathe. Coops can be very expensive. You might see one on Tractor Supply's website or your local feed store for maybe $200, $300. But those are generally very flimsy. Even if you live in the middle of the city, you still have raccoons, cats, and stray dogs. You have to think about the fact that there needs to be wire going underneath the coop so nothing can dig in. The wire needs to be small so a snake cannot just slither right on through. Even though they don't need AC or heating, they may need box fans to keep them cool and the air circulating. They definitely thrive on ventilation. The ammonia can get really high in chicken coops if they're not cleaned out properly. And their diet is a little bit different than most people think. Even though they can eat everything, it's not necessarily recommended for them to eat everything. So I will insert a picture somewhere up here of my chicken coop and then of the expansion of the chicken coop that we made to give them more space. At night, they don't go up in the actual box part. We have fully predator-proofed the entire area, so they have that whole 8x7 area to go in and out all throughout the night if they want. And then whenever they are free ranging, we're watching because predators are extremely rampant in my area, and they can come from the ground, they can come from above, they can unfortunately be already inside of your home. Your dogs and your cats sometimes will not get along great with your chickens. You have to think about that it's their predatory instinct and it's not their fault if they were to hurt the chicken, so you have to be watching. So I'm not going to be able to introduce you to all 5 of my chickens today, but I thought Katarina would be able to be a great ambassador for the rest of the girls. Katarina is my smallest and my sweetest chicken. She's kind of savage to the other girls, but she's very sweet to people. She is around a year old and she has many more years to live. So Katarina and her sisters eat an organic chicken mix. I personally don't use lights, hormones, or growers on my chickens whatsoever, and I don't eat their eggs. The eggs go all to my sugar gliders who require eggs in their diet. Not all chickens are going to be friendly. Most of my girls are really sweet. Some of them like to be held, or at least don't mind it, like Katarina here, and some of them will not tolerate being held whatsoever. Some of them are small like her, some of them are very large. Chickens do occasionally need medical treatment. If they've been attacked by some type of animal, you'll want to find a chicken savvy vet in your area, or at least a farm type vet who's seen some type of a chicken before, or an avian vet who's at least knowledgeable on birds. Another thing that you're going to want to do is look up chicken diseases that can be transmitted, all sorts of stuff like that. There's a couple of things that people treat their chickens with, whether it be for mites, for diseases or parasites found in the ground or transferred through other chickens. Those are things you'll want to be aware of when you bring your chickens home. I do think with the proper knowledge, determination, and awareness that these could be okay pets for a family-friendly household, but in most situations they don't make great pets for small children, and sometimes not even for older children. It takes a lot of time, dedication, work, financial stability to be able to own these animals properly and provide them the life that they need to thrive. So basically, for an overview, both animals can be expensive, both animals can need vet care, both animals live a really long time, both need to be kept in pairs or more. One lives indoors, one lives outdoors, but generally they don't do well with children for the most part unless you put in a lot of work and supervision. I was so excited to film this for you guys today. I hope you really enjoyed it. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, thoughts, please leave them down below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll leave my links in the description.